So on the left here for the Versace Brick Syndicate, we have Joe Schupp and Adam Cabrerra for the Oaktown Rude Boys. So Joe really sort of needs to step up and sweep this round for them. I think he's their fourth place guy in terms of prestige. So there's going to be some pressure on him, but he's playing pretty good identity.
Yeah,
CTM.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking of Kate and CTM,
yep, right.
Go that right here.
And we'll see shortly if it's the Nexus variety. I have to imagine it is. But I think as I say that, I see an Astros crypt in hand. So I may be wrong. Oh, no. Ghost Runner. That's a Ghost
Stealth
Runner.
Kate.
Yeah, so we're going to be seeing Stealth Kate against a CTM deck that probably isn't going to run a whole lot of ice.
I mean, the Stealth Breaker Suite gives you a good edge here because the Code Gates are really the strongest part of MBN's ice suite a lot of the time. And breaking Archangel or Tollbooth for cheap is pretty
that's
important.
certainly not irrelevant. But on the other hand, not necessarily known for having a whole lot of money to go trash Sensies or handle tags. So
see how much of an issue that is. I mean, Joe, no asset to start with, so
right. That's good for Adam to see. And Adam has both Beth installed and Netrunner already in hand. So certainly ready to start building up the stealth credits and the regular credits as well.
Netmercure will help out a bit actually when it comes to the asset trashing thing. It's got that weird sort of almost Desperado effect where if you're spending your credits, you always get them back.
Right. Yeah, something we saw a little bit in the lunch break when Nick and I were both playing on stream is that Netmercure synergy with itself.
Cards with the synergistic with itself are pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I hear. The Desperado that pays for itself after 3 runs. It's a good card. So I think Adam just trying to decide whether or not he's running HQ.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the only...
Oh, no, okay. So Joe just deciding whether or not it's worth it to score out the breaking news.
Well, it does leave his HQ open, so it's possible Adam will want to go in. On these credit totals, though, hard-hitting news is definitely a threat.
Certainly, yeah. And you can't really be too afraid of a siphon out of Kate, so...
Yeah.
I think that's a safe play, is scoring that breaking news.
But some of these stealth lists I've seen online will have Tanuj in it.
Yeah.
So leaving HQ open is still a bit dangerous against that.
That's true.
You might just give a runner a huge economic advantage.
But hasn't seen it yet.
Nah, just setting up here.
Speaking of some anti-CTM tech, New Angeles City Hall. That's going to be good for Adam, but again, he's going to need to see those Timogens or some source of econ.
Got to have the money to pay for it. And ideally, he wants to find a film critic so he can actually go and start stealing agendas without trashing the whole.
Unless he's playing Fall Guys, but I can't imagine a stealth build. That's what you're running. So we'll see. So Joe, going to draw. Again, going to want to ice HQ at some point, but the breaking news out is a good start. So getting any sort of combo off on Adam. At this point, he's got to be feeling pretty good. He needs to see some draw. He needs to see some asset econ. Sort of force Adam to address more than just the 3 centrals. All right, yeah, Jackson Howard. It's an important card for now.
Brief pause.
All right, so Jackson resolved. No preemptive action necessary there.
Now, I was going to say, Joe is, I think that's a very interesting choice, the fact that he scored the breaking news straight out of his hand, no benefit to it, no closed accounts, nothing else going on. And I think that's just a sign that maybe his HQ, he's a bit worried about, just early runs. Because really with the CTM decks, in my experience, you want to be getting some value off your breaking news every single time. Just scoring a point from it is not that great.
Yeah.
And against this Kate deck, you're not expecting them to get tagged naturally. So
exactly. Yeah. So unless he's flooded out a little bit, it's hard to see. We haven't really seen much of his hand. But I would agree with that generally.
Wow.
Okay, and that might be why. He might just have the 24/7. Maybe he's playing Boom.
Yeah, it might be an interesting variety of CTM we're seeing here.
If he plays 24/7 consulting visit next turn, I think we know why. Adam, on the other hand, now has to be a little worried about that, but with New Angeles City Hall, I don't think he's super concerned. As long as he stays above 4 credits for the time being and doesn't run.
That's the thing, that New Angeles City Hall, just even if he's worried that Joe might be playing some sort of 24/7 stuff, it's just great protection against it.
And he also has an employee strike in hand, so that's going to take care of any worries about the CTM tag when it comes time to start running assets, although, again, still have yet to see any of those from Joe.
Yeah.
So Ghost Runner, sort of another source of stealth credits. And interesting.
Discards a Mercury. Does he have a second one?
He must. I think I did see one, actually, in hand. So getting rid of a Mercury and a Cloak. So not ideal discards for him, but...
Although, I suppose against CTM, how many Cloaks do you actually expect to need in the long run?
I think that's also fair. You know,
the ice is never going to get all that taxing.
Yeah, unless you somehow decide to go tag me with Kate, the resistors aren't going to be too big. Otherwise, it's just the toll booth, I think. The toll booth and the Archangel.
Exactly.
So Beth already doing some work here for Adam, keeping him consistently money rich. And a Diesel is also going to help him find some more cards that he needs. Yep. Go ahead and use it. He's found the Film Critic.
Yeah.
Film Critic and the Corroder. Two things which are probably going to be pretty good here.
He still really needs to just get some early econ up so that he can protect himself against hard-hitting moves. We'll see what these two new remotes from Joe are as well.
And there's the Corroder.
Yeah. If we see Bankers or Sensies, either one really, or both.
Ooh, or both.
That's putting some pressure on Adam now.
Yeah,
because he cannot let that fire for too long.
And the problem is he can't really run and deal with both of them. That puts him well below any sort of threshold for handling hard-hitting.
Possible, but he just has to play the strike, go in and kill the assets, and hope that isn't a hard-hitting move at this point.
Yeah. And that's really the problem, is you let that Sensi fire once, and the game is very different.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that the Sensi fires means it's now more likely that Joe has the hard-hitting moves. So...
Now, fortunately for Adam, we see that Joe has found a lot of ice, I think, with that Sensi. So at this point, he's safe. For how long, we don't know. It looks like maybe an Enigma in hand for Joe. Hard to see. But Joe having to make a decision on what he's going to drop to the bottom of the deck.
Oh, no,
okay, I already did that.
Yeah.
So
it makes a lot of sense here to the size HQ.
Yeah. And of course, he can't know that there's an employee strike waiting to turn off CTM, but presumably that's what Adam's going to do.
It really is all about whether or not he thinks the hard-hitting move is coming.
Yeah. And gets fortunate to draw into Sure Gamble. Click one. Okay, well, so probably not interested in running those assets right
looks
now.
like he's going to leave him another turn.
Unless he maybe runs now and avoids that one tag.
You want to be able to play the strike, really.
But I think you have to play the strike before you run. But at this point, with one click left, do you think maybe it's worth it to run that Sensi? He'll have 8 credits left afterwards if he needs to avoid the hard hitting. And really, with the hard hitting, all you have to do is avoid 6. Spend 6 to avoid 3 tags. You can clear the next tag on your next turn.
Yeah, it's not completely terrible. I mean,
but I think it doesn't look like he's going to do it. Interesting.
I mean, I guess you're not worried about Joe playing another breaking news, seeing as 2 of them have already gone.
Right.
So it's unlikely that's getting cleared.
And you're not, and you're not really necessarily worried about any currents from CTM.
Yeah. Wouldn't expect to see them.
They're not splashing the door-to-doors. But he will continue to see cards with Sensi. He just saw another commercial bankers group. I have to imagine he's going to keep that. Didn't see what he bottomed. He's got a pad in hand. I think something Joe would really like to see is an all-seeing eye at some point.
Yeah, ideally. Although right now we don't know if that's necessarily in the deck.
Right,
There's a lot of mixtures of tag punishment for CTM decks at play.
Yeah, and especially with the employee strike, I guess Joe can't really be certain that he's going to get any tags off.
Yeah.
He's going to res Jackson and look to just draw more cards. There's the exchange of information. And then install the commercial banker. And
probably the pad
I would
as well,
assume,
I would expect.
I would assume the pad. So at this point, Adam's only on 9 credits.
Yeah.
I think you have to go run and trash the Sensi.
Almost suddenly. Letting him fire 2 times is almost too many already.
Though even better would be playing this Temujin contract.
That might be.
And then maybe running and dealing with it. And this might sort of turn the tides for Adam.
So, where's he going to put that? Archives, I would expect, would be the obvious choice here.
Oh, wow, he's just going to run 3 times. Whatever it was. I'm not going to trash the Sensi.
Yeah, probably 3 times.
What I have done is put it on Sensi, run Sensi 3 times, and then trash on the last. Of course, you lose out on some value there, but
yeah,
it depends on the game state, yes.
Run Archives twice and trash Sensis would be fine as well.
Yeah, because then you can,
It is actually very awkward though if you run last click against CTM, and they have the money to trace you for lots, which now he's got potential is an issue, but New Angeles can't prevent it because of the CTM clause stopping you preventing the tag.
Yeah. Yeah, and so honestly, well, and there's the hard-hitting news, but honestly, this is a point where Joe might consider dumping something like a GFI into Archives if he can find one.
Yeah.
I think that's certainly a viable play. Because right now Joe has to be thinking, well, I can't score out against this, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't have the ice to play Glacier CTM.
I mean, Joe has all his assets firing, but it's actually interesting to see how he's going to leverage that to actually win the game.
Right. So look, he's icing a new server.
With Critic and New Angeles out, it's going to be very difficult for him to actually do anything proactive.
Yeah, I forgot about Critic as well.
Yeah.
So a GFI and Archives doesn't even solve that. You'd have to put 2 in.
Yeah. Now discarding 2 agendas, that's a risky move.
Yeah.
If you could just let him take it.
And he'd have to draw pretty hard to find them as well, I think. But that might be what it takes this game, because at this point Adam is feeling comfortable on money. He only really would have to be afraid of a mid-seasons, but we haven't really seen that out of CTM recently.
Yeah.
And with Employee Strike, he's free to go trash whatever he wants. So it looks like he's going to spend 2. Oh, interesting. He's going to run Archives once, and then run Jackson Howard.
Both players here getting very rich.
Yeah.
And I tend to find that means that favors the runner in these sort of matchups.
Yeah, and these
CTM wants both players to be poor, if anything.
Because CTM's going to recover much faster from that
exactly.
than the runner will. So Adam runs Jackson, forcing the pop. Still hasn't run the Sensi. Now I think he's thinking whether or not he could leverage a run on R&D into anything without Jackson on the board. But he also doesn't have any multi-access.
Yeah. It seems relatively sort of low value to make a run on R&D, but...
Okay, so he's going to run trash Sensi.
And also...
I think that's smart.
Yeah.
Oh, so Temujin was on Sensi.
Yeah,
he was just letting it sit there for another turn. And I think that's okay value. He will trash one of the bankers, both of the bankers.
Both bankers, yep.
There we go. So now the board is clear.
I mean, Joe's still got so much out of both those bankers and the Sensis.
Yeah, Adam has to be careful not to go down too much further in money.
Definitely sitting comfortably now, but unless he sees another Temujin, he does have to be careful, I think. I agree with that.
In fact, I think Joe can afford... No, I was going to say he could breaking news, or 24/7 breaking news, but then, of course, the tags would just be dodged.
Yeah, exactly. And
so, for that reason, Adam's still sitting comfortably. He's got to find some way to deal with either the New Angeles City Hall or the Film Critic, Joe.
The 3 bits of hate, the Critic Hall and the Employee Strike are really, I think in some ways saving Adam in this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think without any of those, it's a very different game.
Resist, right?
Well, that's easy.
We'll just use Cloak for it.
Interesting that we have a dagger installed.
Yes.
A lot of players almost never install Sentry Breakers against CTM. Because you're mostly just expecting something like Turnpike or Data Raven, where breaking it is often just a lot worse.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, similar to the IG matchup where your breakers are less relevant as breakers than as hit points, essentially.
And that is...
Here it's more about the tempo hit to your shred-up.
That's really what the UK players this year were leveraging with Cobra in the CTM deck, is that everybody as a group realized that a lot of players would just run without Sentry Breaker, and you can punish people hugely for it.
Yeah. So Adam's sitting on 17 credits. Joe maybe thinking about hard hitting, but again, that doesn't really do anything.
It just costs him 8 credits, right? Joe has to play a lot of credits to even make the trace look reasonable,
right.
And then Adam can pay 8 and avoid all the tags with New Angeles.
Yeah, it's going to cost Adam the 3 to play hard-hitting news and then 7 more, presumably.
Yeah, so
to make it worth it.
It's effectively just a vamp, almost.
Yeah. And currently, without any econ except the pad campaign on board, it's not necessarily viable.
Yeah.
Adam, however, getting 5 clicks a turn off of this Beth, has to be feeling pretty comfortable now after those quick 2 breaking news scores. So at this point, can Joe even turn to sort of a fast advance plan and just score out?
It's going to be difficult. I don't know if has Adam used SMC at all this game. I don't think we
haven't seen one. Yeah.
So right now there isn't plot threat.
Right.
So if he can sort of hide a Sansan somewhere for a turn, then I guess he has to, really. Like, I think the thing that's most likely to put Joe back into the game here is if he can sneak out an Astro Script on the Sansan, then he might actually still have a chance.
Right, and then he'll be able to get to 6 points fairly easily, and he just has to find the remaining 1 point.
Find another breaking news or something.
Yeah.
I think I might see Clot in hand.
Yeah, I think I do see Clot in hand. So I think you just install that.
Or even overdraw and discard it, so you've got a clone chip
that's
ready.
Fair.
Yeah.
But like you said, he's not running a whole lot.
Yeah.
So he doesn't really need the programs in. It wouldn't necessarily hurt to put the Clot out now. That forces Joe to find a CVS if he has one. Exchange of information. So Adam just going to maintain the money lead.
Yep. Like we said, just playing carefully, trying to stay above any sort of, hard hitting the news threshold. Really just has to keep 8 credits.
Yeah, I mean, if he keeps 8 credits at all times, then he should be comfortable.
It starts to be a bit awkward if Joe is able to play the hard hitting news and put him down to sort of close to 0.
Right.
I mean, that's a good chance to maybe install Sansan because it's not going to be enough credits to trash it. But still, Adam's just high enough above that amount that it's not an issue right now.
Yep. So Joe just, unfortunately, going to have to keep taking money. Not something you normally would say as a court player, but sitting now on, 30 credits? And can't really do anything with them.
Yeah.
He's not even being siphon spammed, and he's in a rough spot.
Just no way to turn that money advantage into a win at the moment.
Well, and with an RDI in Adam's hand, you have to think that eventually, or at least rather soon, RDI or R&D is going to be the target here.
Yeah.
I'm really curious as to what Adam is drawing for.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe he's still trying to find his gate breaker.
Could be.
There's the audio, though.
Yeah.
He might be looking for a gate breaker, so he thinks it's safe to run R&D.
Right.
Because you don't want to hit an Archangel or a Toll Booth without one installed.
Of course.
And, Joe will have no problem resing Toll Booth at this stage of the game. He's got so much money, that's one of the things he can definitely afford to do.
And Joe just going to go back and get the Sensies and commercial bankers.
Yep.
At this point, a Sensi, if he can find one, is really only going to be used to find the next 2-1 to score out.
Yeah.
To try and break that employee strike lock. And I think, though, that there's another one in Adam's hand, so not going to be quite as easy as he thinks.
And Clock hits for Ben.
Yep.
So it is there ready if Joe does try anything.
So Joe in a pretty tough spot now.
Yeah.
I think he draws one of the commercial bankers. Or maybe a Moonbat Virtual Tour.
I mean, Adam's credit total is lower than it was earlier, so I'm wondering if Joe is maybe trying to pressure him a bit with these last 2 installs.
Right.
Especially putting one in the remote. Just making it so that Adam has to go through and check, because he might be afraid of, just BL on the table.
Yeah, and that's why I think maybe in this case Adam is just content to draw cards and put things on the table. Getting a quad view here on our preview screen. Getting to see all the views. I thought he might diesel again.
Just keeps on drawing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm fairly confident that the Gatebreaker is the last sort of piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. Finds mirror as well,
Yeah,
which
important.
certainly helps. Now I think just deciding what he's going to end up discarding.
I think it's interesting we haven't seen a Netrunner install yet as well.
Yeah.
But it may have been useful earlier when he did do that turn where he trashed the assets.
Yeah.
Would have certainly sort of refunded itself. Spend, I guess, a Ghost Runner credit to get it started.
Yeah, I mean, really, anytime he can be spending those recurring stealth credits,
yeah,
would have been helpful in getting the Mercure
it's possible
loaded.
he's just worried about losing those credits to tags if they do have a
right.
stick. So.
And Joe just going to be content to res the commercial bankers again. If you're Adam, do you even go and handle that at this point?
The credit total is so high, at least on Joe's side, but it might not matter anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, and there it is.
Oh, there's the breaking news.
That is awkward.
So
prevents for tags.
So interestingly, this was a play that was used against me by one Laurie Poulter.
Yep.
Not this exact play, but he 24/7'd the breaking news out to force me to avoid one to stay alive from boom. Right. Now in this case, Adam would use NACH to avoid both tags.
Yep.
But that puts him below the ability to dodge a hard-hitting news set of tags. So I'm wondering if maybe he should have
make a run last turn.
Right. So I'm wondering if maybe he should have waited.
Stayed. Yeah.
But at this point now, with 3 breaking newses, if he draws the 24/7, that becomes a more viable play, I think.
I don't know if this deck necessarily has 24/7.
Right, and I think that's the question.
That's the thing.
Though with 3 breaking news, it seems like it might be sort of optimal to run it.
This is either Adam is in a really good spot because all the breaking news are now gone, scored without anything bad happening when they get scored.
Right.
Or it's in not such a good spot because Joe has 24/7. He's
right, and he can be ready to just give up the GFIs and go swap them out now. Although again, with a Beal already scored, letting Adam take agendas is going to be a scary prospect.
Yeah. It's one of the worst feelings in CTM is when you manage to get up to, well, when you're doing well, but your opponent gets to 5 points, and then you realize that the GFI swap isn't going to happen anymore because they just win the game if they take it.
And another Ghost Runner in hand, it looks like, for Adam. Or maybe Blackstone. No, not Blackstone.
That's that'll be one more Ghost Runner.
Yeah, so Ghost Runner and then whatever this card is on front. So freedom through equality. Interesting include when he's already got 2 employee strikes, as far as I know. He might have bidden to the other employee strike. Really curious to see him installing all of these and not being very aggressive at the running.
Well, again, this turn he's dropped back to down below 8 credits.
Yeah.
So now is not a good time to run.
Looks like he might be considering installing the 2nd RDI.
It's quite a big investment, though.
Yeah, especially when, as you mentioned, he's already that far below sort of the safe threshold.
This card's turning wheel, which seems sensible to me.
Yeah, at this point.
At this point in this matchup, the hardware is definitely like a little bit more safe than your resources.
Joe now getting another Sensi back online. He's been sort of waiting to redraw that. And hopefully that'll help him filter the cards he needs. Though at this point, again, it's not really clear what those cards are.
Now is a good time for a Sansan, I think.
Yeah.
Now would be ideal. Adam's low enough that hitting the Sansan and having to avoid the tag is
it'll be tough.
Actually quite costly.
And it'll put him easily within hard-hitting news range. Joe flipping through the cards, having to think pretty hard about what's going on here. And I think, you know, it is pretty tough to figure out what his line of play is here without something like the Sand. So it looks like he's, wow, going to spend 5 credits.
He can definitely afford to make that server.
To protect this server. And if I'm not mistaken, he did not put an agenda there. I don't know that he had one in hand. I could be wrong.
Wasn't clear to me either.
But I think that would be a very interesting play if you were to just put, say, a Moonbat Virtual Tour back there and make Adam come in. I think he made it a little too daunting for Adam to consider that.
I think if you have Virtual Tour here, it has to go on the Sensies or the Bankers group. Probably the Sensies because you have so much money already.
Yeah. And so I guess it must have been an agenda, but I didn't see what it was.
Or it could be that Sand.
Yeah. If it's a GFI, I think that's a pretty bold move. Signaling that maybe he's going to try and score it out, but I don't think you install that this turn if that's the case. So if it's his Astro, I think he's in great shape, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, that means Adam has to get pretty aggressive pretty quickly. And there's a Katie Jones in hand for Adam, it looks like.
It's a bit late in the game.
Yeah, a little bit late for that.
Feels like if...
Though with 5 clicks from Beth,
true.
that makes it a little more easier to stomach. And it does look like that's what's coming down. Thinking about it, trying to make that same decision, whether or not it's worth it. But he will. And he'll drop the second NACH.
He has that second strike in hand still.
Yeah.
So if he wants to, it is possible to go in and kill the Sensies, but again, he's just so worried about his credit total.
Yeah.
And, you know, not having a Magnum Opus, which is what the Shaper decks are normally relying on to stay above these sort of hard-hitting thresholds. It's actually quite painful.
Giving Joe a lot of time to think and to find cards here. To sort of find his way out of this bind. A matchup that was looking like Adam was going to be able to apply some pretty solid pressure has now turned into Joe has a lot of money over there waiting to throw tags at Adam.
Yep, Mercure discarded again. Looks like Adam just doesn't think he needs it in this game.
I'm really not sure of the logic there. I'll be very interested to talk to him afterwards.
Yeah.
And it looks like Joe has found a second Sensies and maybe a second commercial bankers group as well. So my guess is he would just drop both of those if he doesn't.
If he hasn't got an agenda.
Yeah, if he hasn't got a scoring play right now. He also has a sweeps week, which at this point.
Oh,
okay, there we go. That is the Astro. So this game has just gotten pretty tense for Adam. And very good for the Versace Brick Syndicate.
Yeah.
A great start to this round for them. So now Adam has a really tough decision to make. He just drew a Temujin, which, again, seems a little too late.
I mean, Adam does still have that clock available, so it's not like we're just going to see a Beal off the top and, you know, Joe wins the game immediately.
Right.
But Joe's server is probably high, like heavily guarded enough.
Yeah.
But even if he just installs, doesn't get to finish it off, and has to score it next turn, Adam either steals it but is unable to protect him with this amount of money. Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
You know.
So
see how taxing that remote really is.
I think he just, he installed and spent the 3 clicks running.
Yeah.
So banking on the fact that the clot will protect him, or will stop the score for at least a turn, which I think is fair. We haven't really seen CBS or any upgrades installed. There's a GFI, not really the most ideal, but also a toll booth. I think ends up keeping the toll booth.
Toll booth on the remote seems very strong.
Yeah, and I think there might even be an Archangel already installed on that remote. So,
and because Adam is on the Refractor build, the Ghost Runner is going to help him out here, but stacked code gates are still a problem.
Right, because you have to repump every time.
You can, you know, with those 2 Ghost Runners, getting him once probably not an issue if there's, you know, 2 toll booths or an Archangel and a toll booth, but eventually they do start to run out.
So if you're Joe here with just a GFI in hand, presumably you just leave that in your hand and you're just digging for the 2-pointer.
Yeah, I think that's fine. What do you?
I mean, Adam hasn't really pressured HQ recently. He doesn't want to keep losing money to that.
Yeah. Where do you think you put the toll booth? Do you think the remote is the best place for it, or do you think maybe R&D or HQ would be safer?
I think it's hard to say. I think one of those is an Archangel. I'm not sure what the other one is. I do like stacking the code gates there. I think putting the toll booth in front of the Archangel is very, very
that
strong.
seems solid.
Because you're costing them 3 credits and the break, and then they hit Archangel. If they're not counting on that or thinking about what could be ahead in terms of ice, then they can be in a lot of trouble there.
And again, just installing the cards into the remote means Adam always has to worry about that last Beal. Like, if you don't check the remote, there's a decent chance you lose the game.
Yeah.
Joe's been drawing so many cards off senses, there's a good chance he has it. So,
yeah, and at this point, Adam has to just go for it. I mean, we haven't seen him make really any runs that aren't just money-making runs for several turns now. So I think that's what he's got to figure out, is whether or not he can afford to go for it. He has an indexing in hand, so might be considering just trying to look for the win off the top.
Of course, he doesn't know if, he wants to check for remotes to see if they're Jacksons, if he's going to try the indexing play.
Right. Now, the unfortunate thing is that might be a Jackson on the ice remote.
Still the other remote.
Yeah, that's certainly the safer place to
he's
put the
just going
Jackson.
to hope it's not, I guess.
Yeah. Speaking of Archangel, there it is.
Yep.
Okay. So pump, break. So still sitting on plenty of credits to handle it.
And pop up.
Pop up, not really going to be a problem. Yeah, Mirror gives back the cloak credit. So he doesn't see even one, I don't think. It's hard to tell what that last card on the left is. But it's a hard-hitting news, a psychographics, a launch campaign maybe? It's something else. But clearly not anything that Adam wants to run back and score. Which means at this point, click 3, I think you have to run that remote.
Seems like it might be the right thing to do.
So he'll ponder again what the best order to put these cards in is. He'll go back on top of R&D. And then sitting on 20 credits, he's got enough money to go really anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of making the right decision.
If you keep letting the senses fire, then those indexing cards are going away, and Joe's going to be seeing new cards very soon. If he doesn't have the Beal already, he'll have it in a pretty short amount of time.
Right. Now the unfortunate thing is for Joe, if he just put a GFI down in that server, he can't score it for 2 turns.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that's not what he did. Haven't seen his hand since he put that card down though. And the tough thing here is Adam can't even really math out what that server is going to cost him.
Yeah, having never got into it before, like, you don't know.
Yeah, and he hasn't seen anything off R&D to indicate what that ice is. Do you drop Employee Strike and just run Sensi and hope that that's not it? I mean, I think you have to run the server.
It's a brave play if you do it that way.
Yeah. There we go.
There he goes.
Okay. And I think if you access and you see it's not an agenda, I think at that point you have to run the Sensi to stop Joe from drawing through. Because you know what the top 5 cards are now. That buys you another turn or 2.
You know that he's not getting the BL anytime soon.
Right.
Unless this was a
Unless
test.
this is a Jackson. Oof. And it turns out it's a good thing he had this dagger.
There is a snake.
Pump and break. Now, getting down close to the threshold where you have to be worried about things like 24/7 into hard-hitting news.
And look at these stacked code gates, plus the Cobra requiring a self-credit. It's really draining away these coast runners. It's going to make it very difficult for Adam to get into the server again.
Yeah. So 2 for the Corroder to break both.
Pad
campaign.
Oof.
Really, I mean, it's well played by Joe. It's sort of a common play, but you have to check it. You have to respect it, because it's always that one time you don't go and check it that it's an agenda.
Well, when anyone's on 5 points and they're just installing cards behind 5 pieces of ice, it's always going to be a problem, because what do? You just hope it's not the agenda, or do you go and pay all your money, and then if it wasn't the agenda, they'll put the agenda there?
Looks like he's going to Employee Strike and run Sensi.
Yeah, there we go.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
How you doing? Great to see you. Glad you're having fun.
I mean, trashing the Sensi more than anything just means that those indexing cards are going to stay for a bit.
Right.
And it means Adam knows that he almost certainly has another turn before the 3-2 gets found.
Really probably 2 turns even.
Yeah.
Because for Joe to draw all 5 of those I mean, he'd have to dump a lot of cards.
Joe also knows that there's no agendas on there, though, right?
Right.
Or else Adam would have gone back in.
Exactly. So yeah, Joe's probably content to let it sit for a moment until he can find either a Jackson or another Sensi.
Yeah.
But you'd have to imagine if Adam had seen either of those, he might not have trashed that Sensi, or maybe he would have gone back in. It's hard to say. I think that would have made the decision a lot tougher for Adam.
So with just Cloak and 2 Ghost Runner credits, Adam can't break all of the ice on that server.
Right.
But he can let the Archangel fire, or even let the Cobra fire.
Yeah.
You can let the Cobra fire and clone chip back whatever gets trashed.
That's true, yeah. But you'd have to imagine what gets fired is probably the mirror, and that hurts a lot. Oh, no, it doesn't. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
Employee strike is not in a program. I was thinking he was above 4. So, yeah, it's not a huge deal, but reinstalling Dagger, for instance, is still not small.
It's not easy. Yeah.
Refractor would be free.
It's not an easy situation to get out of.
Yeah. Oh, right, and it's Trasher program. Anyways, not
yeah,
Trasher
precisely.
Card,
Trasher.
So
Yeah, no, it's fine.
So the question, I think, is whether or not he would trash Refractor or Corroder, and Corroder obviously costs more.
Yeah.
So I think
Has
he
to be
can do that.
Has to be that. Yep.
Okay,
He's just
so
going to
we're
keep
gonna
on making
install.
Adam check it.
Well, so do you install the GFI here and advance it? Or is that too scary? He's only on 2 points. It only puts him at 4.
I don't know, because it is, it's just so clear then. Adam knows that he has to get it. Like, what you want to do is keep making Adam doubt himself about whether or not that's really an agenda.
Yeah, until you can find the 3-2.
Yeah, until you find the 3-2, or in case, or Adam, slips.
Yeah, if he's below 12, he's at 12 credits now, so he can still conceivably get into the server. It might break him, and at that point, that's, I think, when you install.
If you can put a virtual tour in the server and make Adam run it, that is huge. That would potentially be the ideal play here.
Yeah, I think so.
But you've got to be good at mind games to make your opponent do that kind of thing.
He's just found another Cloak as well, so that helps.
Yeah, certainly.
And another Indexing, actually. And that actually changes things a lot for Adam, I think. I think Adam knows now he can wait another turn or 2 and then
maybe has a new plan.
Yeah. But again, he still has to respect what's in that server.
And this is my point about trashing the Sensis, is now Adam knows that this turn he's probably safe, so he can set up, he can recover, figure out what his plan is by drawing cards, and then it's a little bit clearer to him.
Unless he thinks the agenda was in hand, and that's what Joe just installed.
Yeah.
Joe's been consistently at 5 cards in hand, so I think that's pretty scary. So I think with the 5th click, he might actually run this. No, he won't.
Katie.
So gain 6 for Joe, gain 7. Draws a card. So this will be the 2nd of the 5, if I'm not mistaken. He's not immediately advancing.
Yeah,
so
he doesn't just flip a Beal over, so I think we know it's not the agenda.
Has to be happy. He'll draw again.
Drawing. Adam kind of wants that. He wants to see new cards off his next indexing.
And he's going to get them. So I think actually hard-hitting news was the 5th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
so I think
Adam put that to the bottom of the 5.
So I think Adam will be indexing this turn, possibly for the game. There are not a whole lot of cards left in that R&D.
I think Adam still has freedom for equality in hand.
Yeah, also.
So
2 agendas will do it.
Joe's just going to keep overwriting that server.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. Anytime Adam runs that and it's not an agenda, it's a huge tempo swing.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, Adam says, well, I have an indexing, you just drew all of the previous cards.
I mean, Adam has enough time that he can indexing, see what happens, and then if he really thinks he needs to, he can go back in to the remote.
Right. There we go.
There we go, yep. Oh, well, he does have to spend both cloaks and only gets 1 back from Mirror, so...
That's true. Well, he does still have the Ghost credits.
Yeah.
Or Ghost Runner credits. So he knows one of those is going to refresh. He'll have 3 if he needs to get back in. I think he has to be pretty happy with that. But it doesn't. Oh, it sees 1, maybe
Looks
2.
like, yeah, once again, might be...
It's hard to say. I think he saw 1. I don't think he saw 2. But I might be wrong. If he did, it's the top 2.
I mean, you want to steal the Beals here, right?
Right.
Like, the GFIs are bad for Adam.
But if he sees 2, if he sees a GFI and a Beal, he's going to install Freedom and run. And I think he's thinking about that.
Actually, there is a bit of an awkward situation here if he's playing Freedom for equality, which is that he can't use Film Critic.
Right.
So really, you only want that Freedom on the last agenda
On the
of the
very
game.
last one. Yeah, that's correct.
It's finding out what Mirror does.
Yeah, Joe needing to hear again what Mirror does. Relatively new card, not seeing a lot of play yet until Intervention is legal. Adam maybe is considering that that's a Jackson in the remote, and so doing this Freedom play could actually hurt him.
Yeah.
It puts him below 8 credits. He knows there's a hard-hitting news in Joe's hand.
Has to exhaust one of those Ghost Runners.
Yeah.
Steals that and takes that.
Oh,
that
that's
were
the game.
two. That
Yeah.
was the game. Wow.
He seemed less sure of that, but wow, that is rough for Joe.
I guess maybe Adam was just afraid of a Jackson in the remote.
Yeah, I think that was probably it. Joe struggled there, managed to sort of get back up above Adam's credit total, started feeling comfortable, had 5 ice on the server, and then...
I think that's often the story against Shapers though, CTM, is
Yeah.
if they're going to win, it's going to be once you feel like you're almost there, and then they get that clock lock, they get
they
their,
run
R&D lock,
Yeah.
and then you're out of the game because there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, you don't have the ice to stop them, to keep them out.
Well, with the stealth breaker suite, then
that's
no
true.
matter how many credits Joe had, his ice is never going to be able to really keep Adam out.
Right.